Good evening, and Om Shanti. A very traditional greeting from the Brahma Kumaris, and a very appropriate one for today. Om, I am, and Shanti, peace. Needless to say that tonight, as the world celebrates, the day the world has celebrated an International Day of Peace, tonight perhaps we can top it off with the subject of inner peace. I'm not sure how much of a contribution towards peace we can make without parallel creating a sense of peace inside ourselves. There's the old saying that wars begin in the minds of men, and the seeds of peace have also got to be sown in the minds of men. And so tonight I'd like to explore this subject at a principle level in our lives. Peace in relation to ourselves, peace in our relationships, and peace in the world. From an inside-out perspective. And also in between, stop for a few moments of silent experiments so that we can begin to create the energy that we want in our lives. So I know that all of you have had a long day today, right? Yes? You've had a long day and you've made your way this evening to come here. So I'd like to start off with just some simple relaxation and bringing our attention into the present. That's very important as we begin a path of digging deep. So wherever you're sitting, please sit upright, back straight. Anything you have in your laps you can put to one side. Often relaxation gets overlooked in the subject of becoming peaceful. Yeah? You can't be tense and peaceful. And so sometimes just the very simple act of just allowing my whole being, body and soul, to relax opens pathways to allow peace to emerge. So I'll just be sharing a few thoughts and providing a few instructions. Follow them if you can, and let's take a few moments to relax now. You're most welcome to keep your eyes open, rested on the floor in front of you, or closed if you don't feel comfortable with them open. So first I'd like you to tighten all the muscles in your feet and legs. Clench all the muscles in your thighs, calf muscles, toes, and relax. And just become aware of yourself sitting on this chair and tighten those muscles again. And relax. And now tighten all the abdominal muscles in your stomach and chest. You can pull your stomach in and relax. And again. And relax. And now, all the muscles in your shoulders, arms, hands. You can clench your fists. Tighten all those muscles. And relax. And again. And relax. And now just allow yourself to take a deep breath in through your nose and slowly out through your mouth. And as you breathe in and out, all the tension in your body releases. With every breath you take. Every part of your body releases anything you've held on to from this day. And bring your attention into this moment now. And feel yourself grounded here and now. The past is finished. The future is yet to come. And I create this space now. To be. Thank you. A very simple exercise, but very necessary. So many times in our lives, we mentally become occupied with different things. People, tasks, work. That sometimes our minds become disassociated from our bodies. Right? And sometimes just grounding yourself here and now starts to allow oxygen in and just creates a very calm space to allow the soul to breathe again. And even if you were to take a few moments as a very, very basic inclusion in your day, every day, just to ground yourself in the present moment, you will find your mind becoming clearer. You will find yourself regulating your pace, not rushing. You'll find you'll be able to enter back into your tasks with a much more measured approach. It's a very important practice to relax and ground yourself first. Now we have a saying in India. Peace has a mother. Do you know what is the mother of peace? Everybody in this world wants peace. We do so much to experience peace. And yet, to a certain extent, it's quite elusive. We'll go on holiday for a period of time, great fun, although now holidays are becoming more stressful, especially if you have a family, just organising everything. And you think, oh, what's the point of going on a holiday if you end up organising and managing everything and everybody else? You know, there's alternative treatments available. And so, what is it that opens up the subject of real peace? Because there's physical peace, There's emotional peace. There's mental peace. And yet, what is the mother of peace? What's behind peace? What activates your peace? Have you thought about that? Any ideas? Love. What else? Contentment. What else? At peace with yourself. Okay. What else? Meditation is often the practice, right, that enables us to connect. And what is it that activates your peace? Others? At the back? Your mind. What kind of mind? Okay, yeah. A connection with the Supreme. Definitely that's an element to activate peace. Silence. What do we find in silence? Sorry, I'm teasing you now. I hope you don't mind. Sorry? Happiness. Surrender. Focus. We're getting warmer. Sorry? Okay, maybe that's a trigger. Soothing music is a trigger for this thing. In India, we talk about purity as being the mother of peace and happiness. Now, the subject of purity I want to take up, because I don't think we can talk about sustained peace without addressing the root of it, which is purity. And there are two definitions for purity. Something that is in its original state, untainted, right? No mixture, pure. And then something, the second, something that's clean. And so, when we talk about experiencing peace inside us, is there a place inside me that I can go to that's untainted, not mixed, beyond the day-to-day whir of belief systems playing themselves out? What is that place? There must be a part of me that's pure. Because if there wasn't a part of me that's pure, then I wouldn't want peace. Right? I wouldn't seek peace. And so there's a very pure impulse in the soul that seeks peace. Because purity and peace are connected like mother and child. And the reason why we experience temporary peace, temporary happiness, is because we experience temporary purity. You know, when we talk about coming home to yourself inside, when you sit in silence and come home to yourself, what do you come home to? Lots of thoughts? Lots of rubbish? Uncertainties? Right? And so then the method is to get away from it all, distract yourself. Right? Find a bit of peace somewhere else, and we start looking outside for the experience of peace. And yet the method is to move past the noise and to reach that place inside me that is a reservoir of pure feelings. Now, when I talk about purity, purity and truth are very synonymous. If I can't be truthful with myself, I can't make peace with my conscience. One of the things that destroys our ability to remain peaceful is probably the lies that we tell ourselves. Do you remember the first time you told a lie? Do you remember? No, nobody remembers the first time they told a lie? So long ago, right? It was just too far back to remember, right? Okay, so here's what happened. You told a lie. What can you just imagine? What was your first experience when you told your first lie? Fear, right? It's like an immediate thing that when you act against truth, fear is born. And so there's an impulse of fear. And then you had two choices. And in those choices, you had the ability to tell the truth and free yourself, or to tell another lie to cover up that lie. Which option did you choose? If you chose the first one, what would have happened? You would have released yourself from the fear, right? You would have made peace with your conscience. You could move forward without baggage. If you chose the second one, what happened? Just a little bit more fear. More fear. And then, guess what? You still have another choice. You have the choice again to tell the truth. But this time, you've got to tell the truth about two lies. So guess what happens? It becomes easier to lie again. And then it gets so easy to lie that eventually that lie becomes a truth for you. And you start living out that lie. And at some point in your life, you don't feel comfortable in yourself anymore. And you don't know why. You feel very far away from yourself and you don't know why. Have you had that experience? And then you start the search back to yourself again. And so fear, over a period of time, is only an accumulation of untruths. That's all it is. And so at this point in time, as I want to reclaim my inner peace, I want to reclaim my self-respect, then the first thing is I have to start becoming truthful about who I am. Challenging the assumed status of who I am. Who am I really? And for me, these last 35 years plus has just been inquiring about this question virtually every day. And in my own journey, I've come to understand 3 layers of the self. The first is a very human, tangible layer. Right? It's linked to the body, the gender of the body, whether it's a female body, a male body, who I'm associated with, the parents of the body, relationships, that level of identity, which is linked to position, my work, my job, the possessions I have, the environment I live in. And so there's one level of my identity that's very human. Because remember, purity has a very deep connection with core identity. And so my human identity is not pure, is it? Anything that's pure is constant. And yet at a human level, we age. Yeah? We start with very pure matter as babies and then we age. Okay? Things are constantly changing in our lives. And yet so much of our self-respect is determined by our position, by who we're connected to, by, where we live, what we do. And yet it's perhaps only 10% of who we are. And yet we try and draw 70% of our security from it. So that's one layer or costume of your identity. The second, which is perhaps a little bit more intangible, is what we call your personality. Right? Your persona is also other terms for the alter ego. That part of you that is shaped by your memories, by external influences, by the education you've had, by the family you've been, the culture you've been brought up in, belief systems you've inherited, your talents, your skills. And a personality expresses itself through activity. So as I start to speak to you and share my stories with you, you start to tune into the kind of personality I am. And at a level of your personality, there's a lot of variety. We call that level me. We say me when we talk about the personality. When we talk about the human part of our identity, we say my body, my friends, my relationship, my this, my job, my that. We say my. So who is it that's claiming it? I have a belief, but I'm not my belief. I have a memory, but I'm not my memory. I may have a strength, a physical strength. I may have a talent. I'm not my physical strength and talent. Who am I? And this is where things get interesting, is when we actually in meditation reach past the second layer and start entering a core place that is undivided. Because when you experience deep peace inside, there is no division. There's no opinions in that place, is there? When you're using your personality, you're opinionating about things. You're contemplating on things. You're thinking about things. You're reflecting. But when you hit a place of very deep peace, there is the experience of coming home and being at one in yourself. And that place inside is the home of the soul. The energy that drives my expression in this life. And so at the very core, yes, okay, there's a lot of people that know about a soul. There's a lot of people. It's now common fashion. Everybody knows about the soul. Out of that many people that know about the soul, there's this many that actually believe that they are souls. I am a soul, and are actually beginning to practice that consciousness and awareness. And then there are even fewer that live as souls amongst souls. And so the journey of reaching my truth is arriving at a place of a very powerful consciousness shift. From outside to in. Reaching that place inside me that is so pure, that is so peaceful, that is so sweet, and yet so powerful and wise. A source of all qualities. And yet, it can't be touched physically, but it can be felt. So I want to stop now, and I wanted to take us through another meditation to experience this. Is that okay with you? Yeah? So wherever you are, please sit up straight again. A straight back is very important when we meditate. It allows oxygen through the spine and prevents us from falling asleep. So once again, you can leave your eyes open and rested on the floor in front, or close them as you wish. Allow yourself to become grounded again. Here and now. Tune into your breathing. And allow the body to relax. And allow yourself to be drawn into a space of quietness. Where you begin to become aware of who you are inside. And now, for a few moments, visualize a large circle being drawn around you. That circle turns into a conveyor belt that's moving. And now, very slowly, place all the pieces of your life on that conveyor belt. Your friends, your family, your job, I have a job, but I'm not my job. Place it outside. Your home. And all your possessions. Acknowledge them, they're in your life. But you are more than all of that. And now, place your experiences of the day on that conveyor belt. The roles that you've played. Any memories that are predominant, put them outside on the conveyor belt. Empty yourself. And as you slowly begin to disidentify from all these external pieces, you put the last thing on the conveyor belt, and that's your physical body, the costume of the body. And as you do so, you realize that I have a body, but I'm more than this body. And you are left in the center of that circle as a subtle energy of light. Liberated from the constraints of matter. And in this place of light, you find peace. And you slowly say to yourself in your mind 3 times, I am a peaceful soul. I am a peaceful soul. I am a peaceful soul. Dive into that ocean of inner peace. Surrender to it. As you remain in the light of peace, let those vibrations emanate outwards and touch everything on that outer circle. Infuse every part of your life with peace. And now, whilst remaining aware of yourself inside, raise your eyes, open them if they're closed, and look out in front of you, whilst remaining aware of your peace inside. Thank you. One of the most common diseases today is tiredness. We do so much, think so much, speak so much, and we get tired. And so this practice of just putting everything outside and literally taking off all the costumes of your roles and the costume of your body and literally letting yourself become role-less, body-less. this is what allows the power of peace to work for you. It's a space we create for ourselves. And as we create this space, then we can contribute to everything in our lives with a peaceful energy. Not a controlling energy, but a peaceful energy. So it's very important in your day that you take these moments to literally become bodiless. And breathe. Now, what about the subject of peace in relationships? I'm okay if I'm practicing meditation sitting by myself, right? I'm okay, I can manage myself, but then I've got to deal with so many people in the day. And there's so many expectations and so many demands from me. You know, the one thing that I suppose relationships are or need is love. And yet, you can't have love without peace. And within the framework of our relationships, how does peace get translated in a relationship? What does it look like in a relationship? When you're being peaceful in a relationship, what does that look like? Easiness. Accepting. What else? Sorry? Loving, yes. Relaxed, yes. There's one very, very obvious manifestation of peace in a relationship. Happiness might be the outcome. Harmony. Somebody said it. I didn't quite hear it. Calmness. You be calm. We're getting a bit warmer. Yes, at the back. Harmony. Contentment. Bliss. Honesty. Patience. Everybody goes, oh yeah, why didn't we think of that? Well, you didn't think of it because we don't automatically make that connection, right? Yeah. One of the first manifestations of peace in our relationships, in our ability to interact with others, is the cultivation of patience. So a patience in our attitude. We don't jump to conclusions too quickly about what's happening. Correct? We don't do that, do we? No. Right? Yeah? Patience. We don't rush around our day trying to finish the 10 million things we have to do we? No. I was talking yesterday, and I was saying, you know, there's this expression where they say, those who hurry, they worry, and then they create a curry. Right? Which means, you know, everything gets mixed in, gets all spiced up and heated up, and then next thing you know, it's all gone pear-shaped. Right? And so patience, a patient attitude. You know, patience, it's not difficult to be patient. It's actually about regulating a pace in your life. Finding a comfortable pace for your thoughts, for your words, and for your actions. Because we're pretty imbalanced, actually, at the level of pace. Sometimes we're thinking very, very, very fast, a lot. Of what we think, we speak that much, and of what we speak, we do that much. Have you experienced that? And so there is a sense of imbalance inside. Uncertainty inside. And when we start to cultivate patience, we actually start to take our hands off everything that's in our lives and start to observe what's going on. Just observe what's going on, because everything in your life is telling you what it needs. When you cultivate patience, you stop projecting your own desires onto something. Yeah? There's many times, we may be in a relationship with someone, but we're not really connecting to that person. We're connecting to what we want them to be. So we're connecting to something in our heads about them, but we're not really connecting with them. Patience means you even release that from your head, so you can be open to how something is as it is. It's very important. And together with patience, contentment plays an important role. Both are needed. Because the act of contentment, the state of contentment allows me to be comfortable with myself, however I am, whatever I am. I'm okay. That's contentment. I'm not perfect, but I'm okay. I have bits of me that are imperfect, and they're a part of this package I'm in, but that's okay. When there's patience and contentment, you can be light with yourself. And you can be light when you're handling others. If there's a part that you're attached to and you want to control and you want to change and you're really trying to change, then you will inevitably end up doing that in your relationships with others. And so learning to be patient means literally just learning to wait and see. Just wait and see, even though you may have impulses to want to go in and fix. Because the one thing that prevents us from becoming patient is, well, impatience, yeah. And what is impatience driven by? Ego. Yes. When I haven't taken the time and space to know who I am, that's why we start with inner peace. If I'm not connected to my inner peace, then let me tell you, most of the time I will be a puppet of my own ego in life. And it's the ego that needs to drive me places. It's the ego that needs to prove something. It's the ego that needs to be right. How much anger do we justify in our relationships because I'm right and you're wrong? The ego has 3 expressions. 1, supreme arrogance. Only I can do this. I'm the only person that can do this properly. Nobody else can. I have to be given this job. Yeah? Arrogance. The other side of ego, a complete sense of worthlessness. I'm not good enough. It's called the inverted ego. It feeds itself. I'm unworthy. And the third dimension of the ego, which I think does a lot of damage in our relationships as well, is the rescuer, the fixer, where I'm trying to go and solve everybody's problems. Are you all familiar with that dynamic? Yeah? The problem solver. And yet, what is truth? Truth says that every person in my life has their own karmic story. Every person in their life is playing out their karmic story. It's none of my business to judge that story, and definitely none of my business to step in and try and fix it. I can definitely be a presence in their lives to support them with the best of who I am, and just be there for them. But I cannot fix their karmic story. You know, there's a beautiful story about in India where we talk about, I think he's one of the teachers, one of our colleagues that shared this story, where there was, at some point in India, a large kind of departure of young people from local villages into the cities. And of course looking for money, jobs, position, wealth. And one young man got a good job, good position in a telecommunications company, earned a lot of money, decided to go back to his village after 4 years, and he took a gift with him. And the gift was a Samsung TV and a copy of the latest Bollywood film. Now, for any of you who've watched Bollywood, you know the storyline, basic storyline underneath the plot, any plot, which is boy meets girl, they fall in love, something happens, they can't be together, there's a villain involved that tries to beat up the hero, etc., etc. So the film, they all get together in the square, the village square, and the film is being played, and they're watching this film. And when they get to the scene where the villain is beating up the hero, guess what the villagers do? Right? They take off their slippers and start throwing it at the screen to try and stop the villain. They pick up sticks from the ground and chuck it at the screen to try and stop the villain. And yet you can't stop the villain. Right? So ask yourself, I mean, it's quite a graphic example, but that's exactly what we do in our lives with other people's stories. Right? Just by us intervening doesn't mean they're going to change. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make in human relationships is to try and change other people. And it's impossible. It's a very untruthful act. Right? And so, what patience does, and the power of peace does, because to cultivate patience, you have to start observing more. And that's important. Just start the simple practice of observation. Just observe what's happening. And don't intervene until you have been invited to do so. That's one thing I learned many years ago. You need an invitation to intervene. A signal. Follow a signal. Because if you act without a signal, you might become a bull in a china shop. You might end up creating more problems than solutions. And I think we've all been there, right? When we've acted from such a deep impulse, oh, I don't want it to be like this, and can't it change, and can't you change, and can't you be all right, and can't you just be happy? And then as we intervene, we get irritated and annoyed in the process, and we end up adding to the damage that already exists. And so patience is an incredible virtue that lets me wait for the right time. Because there is always a moment of transformation. You have to wait for it. It's hard, but you have to wait for it. And what that space does as you wait is it allows you time to be with yourself. It allows you to see the corruption inside. It allows you to clean that up so that you can be present in life, in relationships, in a cleaner and more truthful, with a more cleaner and truthful vibration, rather than a judgmental vibration. Right? So patience and contentment. Contentment begins with just being thankful for what I have, and to know that whatever I have is enough. It's enough. You can't have contentment without a degree of self-appreciation. And I think many times in our quest to change ourselves, we forget to appreciate who and what we are. And when there's appreciation, the heart does expand, and love can start to flow. And so patience and contentment. That's the pose to adopt in our relationships. So I want to stop again, if that's okay with you, and do another little exercise. Is that all right? Are you following me so far? You're not getting tired, are you? No? You sure? Okay. All right. So sit up straight wherever you are. And just for a few moments, just quickly now, before we start the act of meditating, without thinking too much, just identify a relationship in your life where there's a bit of tension. Just note it, the back of your mind. Okay? Just make a mental note and then just park it on a shelf and leave it. So once again, ground yourself here and now. Tune into your breathing. And become present. And let your whole being become quiet. Allow yourself to return back to the center of that circle. The core of who you are. Soul. A peaceful soul. And now, visualize yourself sitting in a large, empty theatre. And in front of you, a large white screen. And an image of a star of peace. Radiating peace. And now, an image is being formed around that star of peace. It's in a human form that looks exactly like you. And you see yourself projected on that screen. But this time, completely peaceful. Your eyes are filled with peace. Your body is peaceful. Your movements are peaceful. Your face is peaceful. And now, the scene changes, and you find yourself in that difficult situation or relationship. But this time you're peaceful. And just observe what impact your peace has. In that relationship. what impact peace has in the way you interact in that relationship. Appreciate yourself in this scene. And then the scene changes, and you become a star of peace again. A full stop to the past. And time to open a new chapter. Thank you. It is such a beautiful act to make yourself peaceful, because you can become a little child again, free. And when we talk about the subject of love in human relationship, the reason why the soul feels distressed, even though we belong to so many people, is because we don't experience belonging to an eternal parent of ours. It's like being orphaned. We've been put up for adoption, and we've been taken on by a couple of parents who've sustained us, this body, given us everything. And yet I, the soul, have forgotten who my eternal parent is. And when there is, at its core, a sense of separation from your eternal parent, it's very hard for the soul to be still. Constantly. And so to truly cultivate an attitude of peace that is also security and stability in our life, it's important to open up our mental awareness to the divine, to the supreme, and to play with this idea of being a child. The body may be big, the body may be mature, but the soul is genderless. The soul is non-physical, and it's a beautiful energy of light. And as we start to cultivate a sense of belonging again, then we can draw power from a very pure source, the ocean of peace, the ocean of love. and I can reclaim my inner stability and security again. And where there is the connection with my eternal parent, my self-respect also comes from that. The ego dissolves away because there's no need to prove anything anymore. And there's no need to be afraid of being lonely, because I'm not alone. There is a very benevolent energy that has been looking after me for a very long time, unseen with these eyes, and yet quietly my best well-wisher. Can I open up myself to that energy, to receiving from that energy? And so when we begin that journey of relating to God in a pure way, beyond the physical, then we can become instruments to benefit the world. All of us in our lives have to make decisions about things that impact people in our lives. Be it at work, be it in your families. And one of the signs of peace in the world is benevolence. Are my decisions benefiting people in my life? Or are they just benefiting me? And when you connect with the Supreme, then there is nothing but pure benevolence there. And you become a natural server. You're not trying to please others, but the power that comes from the Supreme allows you to bring happiness into people's life in an easy and natural way without forcing anything. So I want to stop there because I've said a lot. And if you let me, I'll speak all night. And so I'd like to invite you at this point to just consider everything you've heard this evening. There may have been some thoughts you've had, or questions you've had, or some realizations you've had. And just like to create a space to invite you to share any of your thoughts or questions, or realizations or insights. Yes?
When we talked about patience,
Yes.
in our lives, I'm sure a lot of us have said that I have run out of my patience.
Yes.
What is happening there?
When I have run out of patience, I would say that I am not connected with myself somewhere. I have let something in. I'm either thinking too fast, assuming something too fast, doing something too fast. I've found myself in a circle of energy that's out of my control. I'm out of control. Self-control. And you know, when I've been impatient has often been coloured with a tinge of frustration. Right? So it has colours of anger connected to it. And anger usually has a link to desire, an unfulfilled desire. And let me tell you, desires can never be fulfilled. And so You will keep running out of patience because you try and fulfill something that's just can't be fulfilled. And so at that point, I have to stop. And I have to step back from myself and observe myself. To say, what do I really want here? Just pose that question to yourself and see what comes. You know, the soul is a very intelligent energy. If you give it space to discern, it will show you the way to become truthful. But sometimes we don't stop to ask ourselves, what do I really want here? What's really important for me here right now? To be happy. Sometimes our desires are so powerful that we're willing to sacrifice our own self-respect to fulfill them. Sometimes the desire to be right is stronger than the desire to be peaceful, right? Yeah. I don't care about being peaceful right now. I just want to be right. I want to prove you wrong. Yeah. I mean, we're driven by these things. And the thing is, why are we driven by it? Because it's our petrol. We use it all the time. Anything you use, you top up. It's like a telephone. You know, you get to your monthly bill and you top up 10 more pounds. So every time you use something, you hit the top up button on it. And so one of the things that's very important in our lives is to change our source of petrol. And that's why meditation plays such an important role. Is because first thing in the morning, scientifically it's proven that the first 10 minutes of your day, whatever thoughts you have in the first 10 minutes of your day, affect the rest of your day. Affects the whole mood of the day. And so when I wake up in the morning, what's happening? Am I reaching out for my mobile phone to check my social media? Have I got 10 million thoughts running through my head? Or can I create a sacred space in the morning time where I can just land to the core of myself and start charging myself up from the inside? And as I start doing that every day, you'll start to find that your activity in the day and what you're driven by is not your desires anymore, but it's your inner resources. They help you because you've actually made the karmic connection first thing in the morning. So it's very important. You can't practice virtue without power. We're all trying to be good. Unfortunately, we don't have power. And power has to be accumulated. And that's the role of that meditation plays. Okay.
I think it's a desire. I think clicked into me now.
Yeah.
It's something that we want somebody to do something, and then
right.
we keep watching them all the time, whether they're doing it or not, whether they're doing it or not.
That's right.
And this is how we run out of patience.
That's right.
Because what we want is not happening.
Exactly. And I actually forget to see myself in the whole thing. I can see everybody else, but I can't see myself in it. Right? And so that also creates a subtle anxiety in the soul when you can't be with yourself, see yourself in something. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Yes. Sorry, would you wait for the mic so everybody can hear?
What you've said is making a lot of sense, and the little exercises we've done make sense. How do you break the vicious circle? Because you're in this rut, and to get out of that rut, to practice what you're saying, how do you break that link to start doing the things you're mentioning here now?
It's when you practice, it's the other way around. It's when you start practicing this, the link breaks itself. Because everything in spirituality is about attention. Where your attention goes, energy flows. Okay? So when you give attention to what's negative, you find yourself in that cycle again and again, because you're just being attentive there. And what I'm saying is, take your attention away from there and start building this practice in your life. It's like using an unused muscle. You know, when you first learn to ride a bike, the next day your legs really hurt because you've not ridden a bike for ages and you're using muscles. So you have to just start practicing this. And as you start practicing this, your mood changes. And as your mood changes, you don't see rubbish. You don't collect rubbish. You will have noticed this in your lives. When you wake up and have a good day, everything is rosy, right? Even though it's nonsense happening, but it's okay. But when you wake up on the wrong side of bed in the morning, every little thing is a trigger. It says mood. And the way to protect your mood is to practice. First thing in the morning, very important. And I will emphasize this, how you go to bed at night. Most people don't take care of themselves before bedtime. You're exhausted, mentally exhausted from the day. You've had a lot of images in your head. You've got a lot of rubbish. And you just go, whoa. And you know what's happening is that everything you've actually accumulated in your short-term memory in the day is actually dropping down into long-term memory. It's affecting your sense of self. And then because there's so much information that's going in that the soul has to work harder at night to try and sort it out. And so you end up dreaming. And you'll have these awful dreams. And then you'll wake up in the morning feeling like you haven't slept at all. Right? Flat as a pancake. And then you start your day like that again. And then it's a vicious cycle. And that's where depression begins. And so before you go to bed at night, really important to take a good 20 minutes. Journal if you have to let out the thoughts in your day. Empty the mind. Put it into God's lap and then sleep. You know, the former head of this university was Daddy Prakash Mani, an incredible personality. And she always used to say, at the end of the day, today's drama is over. Tomorrow, a new one will begin. Right? It's the end of the play today. That's it. I'm not thinking any more about it. Whatever drama it is, resolved or unresolved. You know how you get these series on television, right? They're never finished, right? There's part 1, part 2, part 3. But okay, part 1's over, finished. Yeah? And so that's what it is. At the end of the day, a series is just finished. Now, tomorrow starts a new chapter. So keeping your attitude light like that allows you to stay involved in the drama of life without kind of owning it, if you know what I mean. Okay. I think we may have time for one more question. Yes, there's one. This gentleman just behind you.
I read it somewhere that the opposite of peace is not war, it's joy. Because peace is it's like it's blue and deep and silent and serious. And joy is yellow and playful and noisy. That makes an opposite. Do you think that being peaceful is maybe joyless in some way?
In my experience, peace and joy are partners. They're not opposites. That when I actually am becoming peaceful inside, I'm connected inside. I've come home to who I am, a part of me, truthful me. And there's a lot of happiness there. There's a lot of joy there. It's not a passive state. It's not an absent state. It's a place of connectedness. And so when I am connected inside, I actually find it easier to stay connected and play. And so for me, peace and joy are partners, not necessarily opposites. Where perhaps something can become opposites is when I haven't understood what peace is. And so I practice passivity. You know? You can't empty your mind. You can't, your mind is designed to think. but you can control the quality of what you think. Redirect that, infuse that with truth. You know, coming home to yourself is a very truthful process. It's not just an imagination thing. I have to know who I am as a being. And when I do that, then automatically I think that there's a sense of well-being that grows. Quiet joy, I would say. You know, like a quiet happiness. It's not loud, it's not excitement. Excitement is the noisy part. Even in Chinese medicine, they say excitement is not good for your heart. Right? So if you want to talk about opposites, then I'd say passivity and excitement are opposites. But peace and joy are partners. Thank you. Okay. So I think that concludes our evening today. I hope you've taken some benefit from it. And of course now, my sincere wish and hope is that you will practice this when you go back into your environments. Because at the end of the day, it's the practice that builds the muscle and makes you powerful. Yeah, you just have to do it. Thank you very much. Okay.